Trump withdraws US from one-sided Iran nuclear deal. Okay, so I'm not sure how I actually feel about this. There's pros and cons. Let's jump into the article. We'll talk about it, and then I'm curious as to what you guys think about this. So President Trump declared on Tuesday that he was pulling out of the nuclear and Iran deal, unraveling the signature foreign policy achievement of his predecessor Barack Obama and isolating the United States among its Western allies. Now you got to also remember this is the New York Times, so it's going to be slightly biased against Trump. Quote, "It was a horrible one-sided deal that should have never ever been made," Trump said to the White House in announcing his decision. Quote, "It didn't bring calm, it didn't bring peace, it never will." Mr. Trump's announcement, while long anticipated and widely telegraphed, plunges American relations with European allies into deep uncertainty. I wouldn't go that far. They also have committed to staying in the deal, raising the prospect of diplomatic and economic clash as the United States reimposes strict sanctions on Iran. It also raises prospect of increasing tensions with Russia and China, which is true, which are also parties to the agreement. In a joint statement, President Emmanuel Macron from France, Prime Minister Theresa May of Britain, and Chancellor Angela Merkel of Germany urged Iran to continue to meet its own obligations under the deal, despite the American withdrawal. Quote, "We encourage Iran to show the restraint and response to the decision by the United States," the statement said. Separately, in a post on Twitter, Mr. Macron said that European allies regret Mr. Trump's decision, adding, quote, "The international regime against nuclear proliferation is at stake." I don't think that, but we'll keep going. Now, Mr. Barack Obama called the withdrawal so misguided. Of course he would. One person familiar with the negotiations and keep the accord in place said the talks collapsed over Mr. Trump's insistence that sharp limits be placed on Iran's nuclear fuel production after 2030. The deal currently lifts those limitations. As a result, the United States is now prepared to reinstate all sanctions it had waived as a part of the nuclear accord and impose additional economic penalties as well, according to another person briefed on Mr. Trump's decision. Now, like I say, obviously, guys, this is mainstream media. It's going to be biased, so we'll try and break it down for you in the end. The withdrawal fulfills one of Mr. Trump's oft-repeated campaign promises and comes despite intense personal lobbying by the European leaders and frantic attempts to craft fixes to the deal that would satisfy him. In part, Mr. Trump was driven by the conviction that taking a tough line with Iran would help upcoming negotiations with North Korea leader Kim Jong-un, which is probably true, who he plans to meet with in the next several weeks. He also announced that Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was headed to North Korea to continue discussions with Mr. Kim about the meeting. Asked if the 3 Americans who were detained in North Korea would return with Mr. Pompeo, the president signaled it was a real possibility. The president's own aides had already pressured him 3 times not to dismantle the Iran deal. But Mr. Trump made it clear that his patience with the deal had worn thin, and that with the new, more hawkish set of advisors led by Mr. Pompeo, the National Security Advisor John R. Bolton, and presidents face less internal resistance this time. He said the United States and its allies could not stop Iran from building a nuclear weapon under the decaying and rotten structure of the current deal. The Iran deal is defective at its core, he said. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel promptly hailed Mr. Trump for his historic move and courageous leadership in ending an agreement that he said failed its purpose. Quote, "The deal didn't push war further away, it actually brought it closer," he said. Quote, "The deal didn't reduce Iran's aggression, it dramatically increased it, and we'll see this across the entire Middle East." Mr. Trump's decision capped a frantic 4-day period in which American and European diplomats made the first-ditch effort to bridge their differences and preserve the agreement. On Friday, Mr. Palmato called his counterparts in Europe and told them that Mr. Trump was planning to withdraw, but he was trying to win 2-week reprieve from the United States and Europe to continue negotiating. Mr. Palmato, I know I'm getting that name wrong. At the moment of this recording, I don't have the internet, so I can't get the pronunciation right. People familiar with the talks suggested that he favoured so-called soft withdrawal in which Mr. Trump would pull out of the deal but hold off on reimposing some of the sanctions. On Saturday, the State Department's chief negotiator Brian Hook consulted with European diplomats to try and break the deadlock over the so-called sunset provisions, under which restrictions on Iran's ability to produce nuclear fuel for its civilians use expires after 15 years. The Europeans had already agreed to significant compromise to reimpose sanctions if there was a determination that the Iranians were within the last 12 months of producing a nuclear weapon, but officials said that they still did not satisfy Mr. Trump and Europeans were not willing to go any further. But Monday, the White House began informing allies that Mr. Trump was going to withdraw from the deal and reimposing oil sanctions and secondary sanctions against the Central Bank of Iran. Mr. Trump has also instructed Treasury Department to develop additional sanctions against Iran, a process that could take several weeks. Under the financial sanctions, European companies will have between 90 days to 180 days to wind down their operations in Iran, or they will run afoul of the American banking system. The oil sanctions will require European and Asian countries to reduce their imports from Iran. For all the frenzied manoeuvring, Mr. Trump seemed to have made up his mind several weeks ago when Mr. Macron visited Washington 2 weeks ago. He had reporters that he was discouraged about the chances that the United States would remain in the accord. Okay, so with this deal, yes, it was reportedly a very bad deal for the US. Am I surprised that Trump pulled out? No, it was his promise, his election promise. He's keeping his promises. Whether you like him or not, he is actually keeping the promises. Will this hurt the US economy, as in like fuel prices and stuff? Yeah, you find your fuel prices will probably go up slightly. I'm not expecting it to go up a lot, but yes, it will go up, obviously, as those sanctions get put into place. Apart from that, look, I find it ironic that Israel is championing Trump in doing this, and literally after this happened, Iran military base in Syria was attacked, sources say, and the Iranian military base in Syria was attacked on Tuesday, sources confirmed to Fox News. The military compound was hit, is located about 10 miles south of the Syrian capital of Damascus, Western military sources said. It is Syrian TV report that it was an Israeli airstrike, that Syrian air defenses system shot down 2 missiles. So you literally have Israel here championing Trump going, yeah, go, yeah, get on, yeah, pull out of this deal, which is obviously going to negatively affect Iran. And then literally the hours after that happens, reports are that Israel is firing missiles at Iran. Also, George Soros has gone through and warned Trump of consequences for boycotting Iran deal. So George Soros finance organization that was previously identified by the Obama White House as central in helping to market the Iran deal to the news media has warned Donald Trump that he will own the consequences of boycotting the International Nuclear Accord. So look, at the end of the day, you know, I'm wary on one side because you've got Israel going through saying, yes, let's pull out of this deal, good on you for doing it, and then firing missiles at an Iran base, which seemingly wants to go through and start a war with Iran. Interesting. And also you've got George Soros going through on the other side, turning around saying that, you know, at the end of the day, that you're going to own the consequences of this. So I really don't know how I feel about this. Obviously if Iran was to fall as a major player in the Middle East, Obviously, that would affect Russia. Russia and I believe Iran is still two of the people that aren't on the world banking trade system or the national or the World Bank trade. So at the end of the day, yeah, I don't know. It seems it's very convenient that Trump is siding with Israel to pull out of this deal, which is going to financially cripple Iran and cause tensions. I don't know. You know, guys, I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. If this video has been helpful, please smack a like. If you're new to the channel, welcome and subscribe. Apart from that, guys, I'll see you in the next demonetized video from YouTube. Have a great day and enjoy.